After the wake in Fright, from 1971, Ted Kotcheff returned home to Canada, where he directed his next feature film. This film would be based on Mordechai Richler's 1959 novel, The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. Mordechai Richler was Ted Kotcheff's close friend and one-time housemate. Richler showed Kotcheff the first draft of the screenplay, which he didn't wrote. Kotcheff said that he would direct the film only if Richler wrote the second draft, and so he did. This ensured that the humor, cultural specificity, and biting satire of the novel were preserved on screen. The story follows Duddy Kravitz, a neurotic and brash young Jewish man who wants to succeed at any cost. He embarks on a string of get-rich-quick schemes, with relentless drive to gain respect and to become someone, but at a high personal cost. Duddy's hunger for success leads him through a series of jobs, each move calculated to fund his dream of buying lakefront property. He also exploits his friends and allies in pursuit of his goal, including his girlfriend. Duddy achieves his land acquisition, but the victory is hollow. In the process, he alienates those who cared for him, leaving him with property but no meaningful relationships. The film was shot in the autumn of 1973, with an initial budget of $650,000 and a final cost of around $910,000. Financing came from a mix of Canadian and American sources, reflecting the growing ambition of the Canadian film industry to compete internationally. Tight budget constraints meant the crew sometimes had to improvise solutions. For example, when the production couldn't afford to close a busy street, they shot guerrilla style, setting up quickly, grabbing the take, and disappearing before police or traffic control could intervene. This approach gave some sequences a kinetic, documentary-like immediacy that matched Duddy's restless energy. Kotcheff employed a relatively lean shooting schedule and used natural lighting whenever possible to reduce costs, a decision that also gave the film a raw, unvarnished look. He also employed naturalistic cinematography and managed to create a tangible sense of time and place. The pacing of the film mirrors Duddy's restless energy, quick, kinetic sequences for his hustles, and slower moments for his emotional fallout. Dialogue is peppered with humor, reflecting Richler's satirical tone while allowing enough space for pathos. The film was shot largely on location in Montreal and the surrounding countryside. This choice of location added authenticity, grounding the narrative in the real geography. Some of the locations are preserved in its original form even to this day. Filming in Montreal's working-class Jewish neighborhoods presented its own challenges. Many of the locations were active businesses or residential streets, and curious locals would wander into frame, forcing multiple takes. Kotcheff, who grew up in Toronto, was deeply committed to capturing the specific cultural rhythms of the setting. He encouraged extras to speak Yiddish and improvised dialogue to enhance authenticity. The film stars Richard Dreyfuss as the title character. He emerged from the 1970s new Hollywood wave of American cinema, finding fame with starring roles in the films such as American Graffiti from 1973, directed by George Lucas, and Jaws from 1975, directed by Steven Spielberg. Casting Richard Dreyfuss as Duddy, fresh off American Graffiti but not yet a superstar, was a strategic move to appeal to U.S. audiences, while still anchoring the film in Canadian sensibilities. But working with Dreyfuss was not without its tensions. He reportedly clashed with Kotcheff over his interpretation of Duddy. The role demanded a character who was both appealing and abrasive, and Dreyfuss initially feared that audiences would find Duddy irredeemable. Kotcheff pushed him to embrace the character's sharp edges, insisting that Duddy's flaws were essential to the story's moral weight. Dreyfuss felt his performance could potentially end his movie career. Discovering that the role of Hooper in the film Jaws that he previously declined had still not been cast, he aggressively pursued it to ensure that he was safely under contract to make another movie before anybody at Universal Pictures heard any negative press about Kravitz. Dreyfuss later said that the role had been one of the most demanding of his career, emotionally exhausting but also artistically rewarding. In hindsight, the friction between actor and director may have fueled the film's intensity, giving Duddy the raw ambition and vulnerability that made him both compelling and troubling. The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz was a landmark for Canadian cinema, with its both domestic and international impact. The film's energy and authenticity resonated with audiences, and it became the most commercially successful Canadian film of its time. The film also earned Golden Globe Award for Best Foreign Film, an Academy Award nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, and it won the Golden Bear in Berlin. The film has since been recognized as a classic of Canadian cinema, and it is frequently ranked in the top 10 Canadian films of all time. The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz endures as a Canadian film classic because it refuses easy moral judgments. Duddy is not fully villain or hero, but a mirror for the compromises many make in the pursuit of dreams. The final image, Duddy alone with his land, is less a triumph than a cautionary tale. Through its lively performances, culturally specific setting, and moral complexity, the film captures the universal tension between ambition and ethics. In the end, while often humorous and energetic, the film probes deeper questions about identity, morality, and the price of ambition in a capitalist society.